Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is that time of year again, and depending on when you're listening to this, we might be right in the thick of February, which means one very specific, slightly odd cultural phenomenon for most Americans.
Were we talking about the sudden appearance of discounted appliances?
We are absolutely talking about the appliances. It's the season of mattress sales, 3-day weekends, and, car dealerships trying to convince you that George Washington really, really wanted you to buy a mid-sized sedan at 0% APR.
He would have loved it.
It's President's Day.
It is a peculiar holiday when you actually stop and think about the commercial side of it. I mean, we take the founders of the nation, these titanic historical figures, and we use them to move inventory.
We really do. It's like, here's to the Emancipation Proclamation, now take 20% off a sectional sofa. But you know us, we aren't here to help you find a deal on a refrigerator. We've been reading through a fascinating stack of articles and legal briefs, specifically a piece titled The Intellectual Property of American Presidents. And it raises a question I honestly never even thought to ask.
Yeah.
Who actually owns the president?
In the legal sense, I assume, not the conspiracy theory sense?
Right. Strictly in the legal sense. I think most of us operate under this assumption that because they're public officials, because they belong to history, they sort of belong to, well, everyone.
Sure. They're public property.
Yeah, the people's property.
And that is a very common, very logical assumption. You'd think that because you voted for them, or, because your taxes pay their salary, you have some ownership over what they produce. But what becomes clear from the source material is that the reality is just so much stickier.
Stickier how?
It isn't just history. It's actually a collision. A collision of three very distinct, very powerful areas of law. You have copyright law, trademark law, and this really fascinating concept called rights of publicity.
And they all crash into each other right on the Resolute desk.
Pretty much.
So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out where that line is. When is a president a piece of public history that belongs to me and you? And when is a president? Well, a piece of intellectual property that can be stolen.
Exactly. We're trying to find the boundary between public domain and commercial theft. Because if you cross it, you aren't just disrespecting history. You might actually be getting sued.
And I think the best place to start is with the job description itself.
Right.
Because the source makes a point that I found kind of hilarious. It classifies the leader of the free world, the commander-in-chief, as essentially just a federal employee.
It sounds incredibly underwhelming, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like they should be clocking in at a cubicle with a plastic badge. But legally, that classification is the most important thing to understand here.
So how does being a federal employee change the copyright situation?
Well, we have to look at the Copyright Act. Under U.S. law, any works that are created by federal employees as part of their official duties are generally not protected by copyright.
Meaning they
automatically fall into the public domain.
Public domain. Let's define that quickly, just for anyone who might hear that term a lot but not know the legal weight of it.
Sure. Public domain means it belongs to the public. No one owns it. No permission is needed to use it. No royalties are paid to anyone. It is free real estate.
So if I want to, I don't know, take the text of the Gettysburg Address and print it on a T-shirt.
Go for it. Lincoln isn't coming after you.
Okay, but that's ancient history. What about something recent? What about a State of the Union speech from last year?
Yeah.
Or an executive order signed yesterday?
Same exact thing.
Really?
Yep. If it was a speech given as part of their official duties as president, the text of that speech is yours to use. You can publish it in a book, perform it in a play. You can even remix it into a song.
That is actually wild when you compare it to the private sector. I mean, imagine if a best-selling author wrote a speech or a CEO of a major tech company. You couldn't just take it.
Absolutely not. That would be plagiarism and copyright infringement. If the CEO of Apple gives a keynote, Apple owns that speech. But because it's the president and because it's a government work produced on the taxpayer's dime, the logic is that the public paid for it.
So the public should have access to it.
Precisely. It ensures that official government history isn't locked behind a paywall. Democracy requires that citizens can read what their leaders are saying without having to pay a licensing fee.
It's transparency.
That's the core of it.
Okay, that makes sense for text. I get the whole democracy needs transparency angle. But what about visuals? Because we live in such an image-based world.
It extends there, too. Official government photographs. So think about the official White House photographer. They are a government employee.
Right.
If they snap a picture of the president signing a bill or, walking across the South Lawn, that image is generally in the public domain.
So I can use that on my blog, I can put it in a textbook, I can make a meme out of it.
You can. And that's the public access side of the scale. It feels very democratic.
Yeah.
Everything is open.
Right. But I feel a however coming. You're setting me up.
Oh, there is a massive however, because while the federal employee rule is broad, it isn't infinite.
Here is where it gets really interesting. Because I think people assume, oh, it's the president, it's public domain. But you can't just take everything a president touches.
No. And this is where people and businesses get into trouble. The rule about federal employees has limits. It only covers works created as part of their official duties.
So we need to define when the president stops being a federal employee in the eyes of the law?
Well, the easiest line to draw is when they leave office.
Yeah.
The source points out that books written by presidents after they leave the White House are absolutely protected by copyright.
Oh, sure. That makes sense. If a former president writes a memoir, that's their private work. They aren't on the clock anymore.
Right. If you try to photocopy that and sell it on a street corner, you're going to get sued. Immediately. That's a private work created by a private citizen. But it gets trickier even while they're still in politics. Think about the campaign.
The campaign. But isn't running for president part of being president? Or trying to be?
Culturally?
Yeah.
Yes. Legally?
Okay.
No.
Explain that.
A campaign is usually run by a private entity, a campaign committee. It's not the federal government. Your tax dollars aren't funding the campaign, ads donors are. So the materials they create, the posters, the pamphlets.
They're copyrighted.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
They're created by private entities, not the government. So you can't just lift a slick campaign video and use it in your own commercial project claiming it's public domain.
That's a huge distinction. I feel like a lot of creators might trip over that. They see a political ad and just think it's fair game because it's politics.
It's a very common trap. And there's another trap that's even more common. We talked about the White House photographer.
Right, the one whose photos are free to use.
But the president is the most photographed person on Earth. For every one official White House photographer, there are 50 photographers from news agencies. The AP, Reuters, the New York Times standing right next to them.
Ah, I see where this is going.
If a photographer from a major newspaper takes a picture of the president walking to a helicopter.
That photo belongs to the newspaper.
Correct. The subject is a public official, but the photo itself is a creative work owned by the photographer or their media outlet.
So for you listening, let's say you're building a website or making a YouTube video about history. Just because it's a picture of a president doesn't mean it's free. You have to check the credit line.
Always check the source. Did a government employee take this or did a private citizen take this? That one distinction changes everything.
Okay, so that covers copyright. But let's shift gears to the branding side of things.
Trademarks.
Yes, trademark. I mean, can you trademark a president? Can I just go out and trademark the name George Washington?
Well, what's fascinating here is that a name generally isn't automatically protected by trademark law. But we have to remember what a trademark actually is.
Right. It's different from copyright. Copyright protects the work. Trademark protects the brand.
Exactly. It identifies the source of goods or services. It tells you, I made this. So while you can use a name in a history book, because that's descriptive, you start running into massive issues when you use names, slogans, or logos in commerce.
Like campaign slogans, Make America Great Again, Hope and Change, I Like Ike.
Precisely. Those aren't just phrases. In the context of an election, they are brand identifiers. They are the Nike swoosh of politics.
And the source mentions these are often held by the campaigns or affiliated organization.
Right. So if you start selling T-shirts with the official campaign logo on them, and you aren't the campaign,
You're infringing.
you are likely infringing. You're creating what lawyers call false endorsement or consumer confusion. You're making it look like the campaign is selling the shirt when really you're just pocketing the cash.
So, if I'm understanding this, the law is trying to prevent me from tricking people into thinking I'm affiliated with the president.
That is the core of it. Trademark law is really about consumer protection. It's about truth in advertising. You can't use these marks in a way that suggests the president or their campaign is the one behind the product.
But what if I'm not trying to trick anyone? What if I just want to sell, I don't know, Teddy Roosevelt's bear repellent?
See, now you're getting into the fun stuff.
Yeah.
If you use a historical figure's name in a way that is clearly unrelated to them, or it's obvious they aren't endorsing it because they've been dead for 100 years, you have a lot more leeway.
Okay, so history helps.
History helps. But living presidents, Or recently deceased ones. That's the danger zone. Which brings us to perhaps the weirdest part of this deep dive. We've talked about their words and their logos.
Now we have to talk about their faces.
Now we talk about their faces.
Yeah.
Rights of publicity.
This is the concept that usually blows people's minds.
Yeah, it really is.
The idea that you own the look of your own face. It sounds like science fiction, but it's real law.
It's a very real legal concept.
Yeah.
Rights of publicity protect an individual's name, image, likeness, or persona from unauthorized commercial use. Basically, you have the right to control how your identity is used to sell things.
But wait, we said earlier that presidents are public figures. Doesn't that mean they have fewer rights? I mean, newspapers can print their face on the front page every day without asking.
That's true. If you're a public figure, it's much harder for you to sue someone for, say, writing a news article about you or making a parody. That's First Amendment stuff.
Okay.
But when it comes to advertising, when it comes to endorsements, that's different. That's not news. That's commerce.
So even if you're the president, a car company can't just put your face on a billboard next to their new SUV.
Exactly. That implies an endorsement. And just because you're a public servant doesn't mean you've signed away your right to not be a billboard model against your will.
Okay, that makes sense for a living president. They have rights. But here is the part that really surprised me in the reading. We aren't just talking about the living.
No, we are talking about the deceased as well.
Post-mortem rights.
Yes.
So you're telling me that a president who has been dead for decades, their likeness might still be controlled by someone?
It depends heavily on state law, as the source notes. It's a real patchwork map across the U.S. But some states have very strong post-mortem publicity rights.
What does that mean practically?
It means the estate of a former president, their family, their foundation, can control the commercial use of their likeness long after they've died.
So if I want to put a specific former president on a bottle of hot sauce...
You might have to call their estate first, and they might say no.
That is just wild. I guess I always thought that once you died, especially if you were a historical figure, you just became like history. A statue in the park.
And in many ways you do. I mean, educators can write about you, documentarians can film about you, but when you cross that line into commerce, when you start using their face solely to move units of a product that has nothing to do with them.
The estate can step in and say, no, our grandfather would not have wanted to sell hot sauce.
Precisely. It prevents companies from hijacking a legacy for quick profit. It's about dignity, in a way.
It reminds me of those CGI resurrections of actors in movies. It feels like the same legal territory.
It is very similar. Who owns your digital ghost? In this case, who owns the ghost of the presidency?
So let's bring this all back down to earth. What does this mean for the average business owner? Because we started this talking about President's Day sales.
We did.
And every February, we see it. The caricature of Lincoln selling used cars, the Washington profile selling furniture. Are all these businesses breaking the law?
Not necessarily. But they are walking a very fine line. This is what we call the President's Day trap.
So how do they stay safe? What's the safe zone, according to our source?
The source outlines this pretty clearly. Using a name or image in a descriptive or historical sense is generally permissible.
So come to our President's Day sale is okay.
Totally fine. You're describing the occasion, you're referencing the holiday.
Or if you're selling a biography of a president, you can put their picture on the cover.
Yes. That's describing the content of the book. That's Fair Use 101.
Okay. But what's the danger zone? Where do the cease and desist letters come from?
The danger zone is implied endorsement or affiliation. It's when you get too cute.
Give me an example.
If you create an ad where it looks like the president is personally recommending your mattress, George Washington slept here, or if you use a specific campaign slogan to sell your furniture.
Like, ask not what your mattress can do for you.
Right. If you start blurring the line so that a consumer might think, oh, is this officially licensed or is this endorsed? Oh, you are in trouble.
And visuals play a huge part in this too, I'm guessing.
Huge. And there's one specific visual the source warned about. The presidential seal.
Oh, right. The eagle with the arrows and the olive branch.
Using an official presidential seal is a big no-no that is actually protected by specific statutes. Using that seal directly suggests official government sponsorship.
So don't put the presidential seal on your dry cleaning coupons to make them look fancy.
Definitely not. That is asking for federal trouble.
It really seems like it just comes down to a balance.
That's exactly the phrase the source uses, a thoughtful reminder. IP law is a balancing act. On one side, we have public access to history. We need to be able to discuss and learn about our leaders.
And on the other side,
Protection against misuse. We need to protect the individual and their legacy from being exploited purely for cash. We don't want a world where the president is just a mascot for a soda brand.
it's a lot more nuanced than I expected. I figured it would be black and white, either they're public property or they aren't.
And that's why these deep dives are so valuable. Nothing is ever that simple.
So let's recap for everyone listening just to make sure we've got these takeaways locked in. If I'm a creator or a business owner, what are my 3 big rules?
Sure. Rule number 1, check the federal employee status. If
Yeah.
it's an official government work it, a speech text, a White House photo, it's usually public domain. Have fun with it.
Got it. Number 2.
Rule number 2, just because it's the president doesn't mean it's free. Private books, private photos taken by the press, and campaign materials are usually owned by someone.
Right. Don't steal the campaign video and don't steal a New York Times photo. And number 3.
Rule number 3, watch out for trademarks and publicity rights. Don't make it look like the president is selling your product. And remember that even dead presidents might have lawyers watching their legacy.
A very concise summary. This matters because as creators or just as citizens, we want to engage with history. But we have to do it without stepping on these legal landmines.
Absolutely. It allows for respectful celebration rather than commercial exploitation.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave the listener with something to think about. You always have a good final thought on these things, something that takes the legal text and pushes it a bit further.
Well, looking at this source, it really makes you wonder about the nature of fame and history. We've been talking about the law protecting a president's persona,
Right. Protecting the person inside the suit.
but at what point does a historical figure stop being a person and start being a public symbol?
That's interesting.
The law tries to draw a line, saying you can't use this face to sell soap. But culturally, George Washington is a symbol of honesty. Lincoln is a symbol of unity. They become shorthand for American values.
And symbols are usually free for everyone to use. You can't copyright a value.
Exactly. So the provocative thought is this. The source talks about respecting legal rights, but in the long arc of time, where exactly does the history end and the brand begin? Does a president ever truly belong to themselves? Or by taking the office, do they inevitably become a brand that belongs to the ages?
Oof. That is a heavy thought to carry into the weekend, but a good one. It makes you think about what we ask of our leaders.
It keeps things interesting.
It certainly does. Thank you for walking us through the legal labyrinth of the Oval Office.
My pleasure.
And thank you to everyone listening. Hopefully, next time you see a President's Day sale, you'll look at that ad a little differently. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.
Goodbye, everyone.